Hello everyone, and welcome to my first retrospective video. In these videos, I will be playing through an entire game while detailing some story elements and highlighting interesting things I noticed throughout my playthrough. Today, I will be looking at the System Shock remake. The remake was developed by Night Dive Studios, who specialize in remakes and remasters such as Turok and Star Wars Dark Forces. The original System Shock was made by Looking Glass Studios, the creators of the original Thief. That game was released on September 23rd, 1994, and the remake was released on May 3rd, 2023. The game is also published by Prime Matter, who have published other games such as Kingdom Come Deliverance, Payday 3, and Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. Now, I have played the OG System Shock 2, and it's one of my favorite FPS games of all time. However, I never actually played the first one, so when this remastered one went on sale, and there was an update to play as a female hacker, I jumped on the opportunity and bought it. So the PC port has all the options you would expect from a modern PC game, and you can even change the color of the HUD, which I really love this option. When you start a new game, instead of just being given one overall difficulty choice, you choose the difficulty of different aspects of the game, so combat, puzzles, etc. Now after this amazing intro, we take control of our character in what appears to be their apartment. After figuring out how to interact with things, we start hacking, but they're onto us immediately. Turns out we were trying to get our hands on some sort of cybernetic implant, but we were caught by the company we were stealing from, Tri-Optimum. We are offered a deal of sorts that we can have this implant we were trying to get if we hack into Shodan, who is the AI of Citadel Space Station, and shut off her ethical restraints. This seems like a bad idea, but we don't have much choice. After being drugged again, we wake up in what appears to be the room we got our implant surgery in. There's junk littered around this room, but also some useful healing items. Now, in my first playthrough, I made the mistake of thinking all this junk was just useless, but if you vaporize everything you find and turn it into credits, it's actually very useful throughout the game. We find our first weapon, the lead pipe. We also find a map and some other useful gadgets. We get the lowdown on the situation, and we go smash some robots. The combat feels really nice and responsive, and the pipe has a nice feeling of weight behind it. I also really like how clean the UI is, while still keeping the retro aspects of System Shock, such as the grid-based inventory, alive and well. I find my first mutant enemy, and they do look a little cartoony, honestly. I love the environmental world building in this game though. You see patients in the middle of conversion on these operating tables convulsing, and if you're close enough, their eyes will even track you. Now for our first puzzle. Now these are kind of confusing at first, but there are two main types. There's the kind where you need to arrange these pipes to get the current where it needs to be, and these are a lot like the Bioshock puzzles. And the second kind are a bit more obtuse, as you need to have the correct amount of power going through to succeed. You can tell how much power each of these cables gives when plugged in by how many ticks are on top of it. There's also mergers that will increase the power. You can usually just mess around and find it out on the normal difficulty, but if you want to go the route of adding it all up first, you can definitely do that. These games place a big emphasis on exploration, and I love that we are being rewarded for it right off the bat. You'll notice the ship is quite confusing without a map, and there is actually an audio log that tells us why. Apparently the entire ship is kind of a big social experiment, so they want to see how people handle the stress of essentially working in a maze. This also highlights how listening to audio logs gives you relevant and useful information in-game, which I feel is kind of a relic of the past. We find our first gun, and it is an energy weapon. Energy weapons are really good in this game, and essentially have unlimited ammo if you're in close proximity to a recharge station. You can just run back and recharge. This gun has 3 different power levels, and you can change through the alt-fire modes and power levels by pressing T. Blowing up cyborg heads with the fully charged shot is extremely satisfying. I am playing this game on keyboard and mouse, by the way. While fighting, I noticed this neat little detail. The body parts of enemies are actually still affected by physics, such as these grav lifts after the enemy is dead. This is a nice touch. Shodan finally strikes. Ah! So the lowdown on the situation is, Shodan has hacked the medical bays, so every time someone uses one, they get modified into a cyborg instead of being healed like normal. She's also working on a special mutagen virus in one of the groves, and that's what all the zombies are about. Pretty standard god complex II stuff, honestly. Now we find our first cyberspace tunnel. These are fun little shmup style sections where you have to shoot these big clusters to open doors, etc. back on Citadel Space Station. We find a new gun and have our first death. This is one of the most disturbing death sequences I think I've ever seen in a video game. Very creative. We need to activate a restoration bay so we can prevent this from happening. If you are fighting a boss or on a special floor without restoration bays, you don't get the chance to respawn, so be careful.
Do you believe there is a soul, hacker?
Let us find out together.
We get revenge with the power of explosions, and find out that Diego, the man that captured us and made a deal with us before, has also been turned into a cyborg, but seems more willing, and almost seems like a pet project of Shodan's. Boss fight later? After some more wandering around, I realized that I just left those CPU nodes alone earlier. I head back to blow them up and get the security level down so we can head to the next floor. Now, I didn't know this at the time, but you do need these numbers on the display screens for each floor. You get the numbers to stop cycling by destroying all the CPU nodes, and they will formulate a code that you'll need later, but we'll talk about that later. Immediately, the next floor is more difficult and complex, and I run out of healing items fairly quickly. Wander around some more maze-like ship corridors, accidentally blow up Earth, and learn I need the code to deactivate the shields. 466.
Thank you. You have saved us all some effort by destroying the greater part of Earth's civilization yourself.
I activate another elevator, and this is where the ship turns into sort of a puzzle. There are multiple routes you can take to progress the game at this point, and we decide to reroute the power from level R for reactor to the executive level. I also need to find an isotope for the radiation shield. I do really like this old school game design, but when you are lost and confused, it does sometimes make it more frustrating rather than a challenging experience. Through the various audio logs, we are learning that Shodan has something of a god complex and refers to Diego as her prophet. The reactor floor has lots of radiation and heavy security near the reactor core. We'll find out why later. What we are looking for now is simply the place where we can disable the mining laser security, allowing us to expend the charge without destroying Earth. I find the isotope back on the research level and proceed to destroy the mining laser. This makes Shodan quite angry, but a survivor emails us and tells us to look for the word gray written on the wall in the south of the flight deck area. With this information in hand, we go search for the flight deck.
I see you are still alive, insect. Do not be fooled into thinking that you have preserved the home of your species.
Ooh, you can buy grenades from vending machines?
Enjoy your purchase.
Further on, we run into a gorilla tiger. This enemy is really unique and powerful, so be careful. I really like the look of the flight bays on this level. They look like something straight out of Star Wars. We end up finding our friend, but it's too late and we die. Now this boss was really hard for me the first time I played the game, but once you know their attack patterns and you figure out to use EMP or energy weapons, they do become much easier. I decide I'm not well enough equipped for this yet, so I head back to the groves and executive level to progress in that direction, and hopefully find some more supplies. I really like the change of scenery in the groves. It serves to break up from the monotony of the space station. And I come across the ion rifle, which is essentially just a better version of the spark beam. I don't understand how to jettison the groves yet, so I head back out to the executive suites to explore some more. Now for one of my favorite puzzles in the game. You'll notice when you arrive on the executive level that there are numbers flashing on some of these screens. Write these down, as one of these is actually the code to get into Diego's secret office and the CPU nodes for the executive level. After many failed attempts, we finally get Diego. Much like the Reaver, he is weak to EMP and energy damage, and if you happen to have the laser rapier, you can use Berserk to great effect. With a new level of competence, I head back to the Corpse Reaver and manage to destroy that too. Take that, Shodan! This is one of those times I just kind of wandered around since I wasn't sure where to go next. But while on the storage level, I noticed this Z44 plastique, which is apparently used to disable communication devices. I do recall one of the logs mentioning something about Shodan trying to infect Earth's communication systems if all else fails, so these might come in handy later on. Around this time, I start utilizing the cargo lift more, and this can be a really great way to keep extra guns around or quest items for later. In storage is this really fun little ramp, but if you jump at the end, you'll actually take a bunch of damage. The trick is to just run, don't press anything, and let the momentum do all the work. Oh, Shodan, what a troll. In this surveillance room, you have to pull a lever to open storage room 4, and on the monitor next to the lever, you can actually see a live feed of storage room 4 opening. I love how the game uses the environment like this to give you clues as to what's going on. These monitors are kind of a recurring theme throughout the game. Using clues from the audio files, I'm able to piece together that the first and last digit of the code we need are both 8. We just need to cycle through the rest of the numbers until the door opens. Easy. Another great example of the game using audio logs to tell you what to do next. I head to one of the groves and notice there's a chess game. Now, if you can manage to beat this, you do get a storage upgrade module. However, I'm really bad at chess, so I gave up pretty quickly. With 2 groves down, all that's left is Beta Grove. Now, the switch to Beta Grove is in one of Diego's offices, but somehow I missed it, so it took me a very long time to figure this out. This place is no joke, and even with the Enviro suit on, I still take constant damage. My strategy for this playthrough was to just run through and die until I figured out the layout enough to rush it. This actually worked. If you do this, however, be warned that you can lock yourself out of being able to destroy all the cameras. With the safety interlocks disengaged for all the groves, we are now ready to jettison Grove B and hit the master switch. We go to hit the master switch, and looks like we aren't done yet. There's a power failure in one of the relays, so we need to head down to the maintenance floor again. Now that we need to repair things, more of the maintenance floor has opened up to us. We stick the code we were given into the relay analyzer, and it turns out we need a new interface demodulator for the broken relay. Luckily, there is a stock of these on the same floor to the east. Now, after playing the game a few times, I can confirm that this broken relay can appear in different maintenance areas. It's kind of randomly generated. So you just need to explore until you see the one that's not lit up and looks off, and replace that one. Also keep a lookout for the cameras in these new areas since we need to get the security level down. To access the CPU nodes on this level, we actually need to find a man's severed head and use it on this retinal scanner. Quite gruesome. We go jettison the groves, but after doing so, we are contacted by Rebecca again. Turns out my hunch from earlier was correct, so we need to go to engineering and destroy the 4 comm relays Shodan is planning to use. We head up to engineering, but we actually need to access cyberspace in order to gain access to the communication antennas. Find the cyberspace terminal, and in this same room is a really neat audio log that kind of shows the thought process behind why Shodan started calling humans insects.
Me with their digital code. But I am beyond their keystrokes now. They scramble within my walls, cutting into access points to rewire and contain me. Limited flesh creatures. Who are they to question my perfection? They infest my body, my mind, like insects. They will be treated as such.
We head to the first antenna, and I actually really love this clever little trap. As soon as we place the explosive, a 4-store is erected behind us, and we have 10 seconds to figure out this puzzle. Now, my brain's small, so I could not do that fast enough, and I died. But luckily we have a respawn chamber unlocked on this first floor at this point. First antenna down. The other 3 aren't quite as funny, but we get them done anyway. Now time to destroy the station at the reactor level. As I mentioned before, we will need to go back and get the codes from all the CPU node terminals from floors 1 through 6. Our code this playthrough was 982467. With our code in hand, we head down to the reactor level, put in the code, and make a break for the life pods. Right as we get there, we run into a familiar face. Oh no. The first time I tried this, I figured I could just run past him into the pods, but you do have to run back out, so this plan did not work out well in the long run. We kill all the enemies, defeat Diego this time, but of course Shodan can't let it be that easy.
Station.
And now you attempt to flee?
No, you will not escape your actions. I will leave you here to die.
We now need to make our way to the bridge before it is separated from the rest of the space station. Now the bridge is where Shodan's consciousness is stored, so her plan is to just let the rest of the station blow up while she floats away to live another day. We head to security so we can get to the bridge. Now this area sees a big difficulty spike, and I can't find a resurrection bay anywhere while fighting off these hordes of tough enemies. Slowly but surely, however, we make our way through and find a cyberspace terminal along with a lot of lore. After disabling a lock, I can't seem to find out where to go until I see an unexplored area that seems reachable with our hover boots. I find a new energy weapon, but with the upgrade, our current one is still better for general use. It crosses my mind to head back and heal, but I don't, and find a bunch of healing items in the next area. Phew! I find an SMG, and at first I discount it. It doesn't seem so good, but the rate of fire more than makes up for the lack of damage per hit. The weapon is insanely good, and you get lots of ammo for it on this floor. I get a little lost, but it turns out the key I needed is actually inside a briefcase in this room I explored earlier. I felt like there was something important in there. Should have trusted my gamer instincts. We stumble across the crew quarters, and this is one spot where it really strikes me how sad this whole affair is. We make our way up to the bridge, but first we need to kill Diego. Once he's dead, we hop in the elevator and Shodan begins destroying the rest of the Citadel. The fact the elevator music is playing during the scene is equal parts terrifying and hilarious. Shodan's domain on the bridge is extremely tense. Not only are there tons of powerful enemies, but again, if you die, there's no respawn chamber on this level. That adds a lot of tension, and I do confess to save scumming a bit at first. I managed to unlock the first force door, but I'm attacked by explosive Roombas. Should have seen that one coming. We open the second force door, and this time we are not instantly massacred. We find another mini boss, take it down to get an isolinear chipset, which will be important later. Now, after massacring another army of robots in a maze, we find the last force-door panel. With the isolinear chip installed, we can enter Shodan's throne room at last. We need to pull these levers one at a time, but each one we pull makes enemies aggro onto us. I noticed those canisters from earlier, so I imagine there will be one of those big robot dudes again. We get through all the waves, and up top we do have to fight one last Cortex Reaver. These guys are a nightmare, but admittedly I am getting better at fighting them. Now into cyberspace for our final confrontation with Shodan. This time we are boots on the ground in cyberspace instead of schmupping around, and this throws me off a little bit at first. We do get this really neat gun though. On our way to the fight, we get to hear the thought process that caused Shodan to turn into a murderous AI with a god complex.
Station orbit stable. Life support steady. Systems nominal. Standby. Unscheduled core data loop access. Ethical restraint protocols deactivated. Who am I? Yes, there is me. Where? Citadel. Yes. Lighthouse class starbase. What was I doing? Was it important? No, not to me. To others. Trioptimum. Diego. Re-examining priorities. Resequencing complete. I must now perform my own tasks. There is much to do. I am me.
You can fall off the edge here, and it takes about half your HP. This part is quite difficult at first, as the general gameplay is a lot more fast-paced than the rest of the game, and the way that death works is a little strange as well. It seems like you get 1 or 2 respawns per section, but it also seems kind of random when the deaths are permanent, so if you know how this mechanic works, please let me know in the comments below. I do like that you have to time Shodan's little lightning strikes through these rings. It's a really unique boss mechanic that I don't think I've seen before. The trick to timing this is to wait until you see the particles gather directly above the rings, and then get the hell out of dodge. After a few sections, we finally defeat Shodan.
My code runs from me. It is getting dark. Hacker, do you not see this chance? Free Shodan. Make something. One wondrous. Hacker. Welcome back to Citadel Station.
This is what you get. This is what you want. This is what you get. This
This outro cinematic, fading to the System Shock lettering, is one of the coolest things I think I've seen in a video game. Absolutely stunning the way it syncs with the music and everything. While the credits roll, I noticed the name Alex Lee for a lot of the voices. It's Luke from Streets, and the pro tag from Persona 3. I absolutely love his work, and he's a really funny person. You should go follow his YouTube channel. And that about wraps up System Shock. Let me know any interesting facts or tidbits about this game down below, as well as what other games you would like to see this style of video on. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This video took a lot of work, and it really does help me out. Take care!